Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome once again to a great episode of the Van Buren Variety Show. I am Bob Van Buren, your host. Glad you are all here. Those of you that have subscribed to the channel and those that tune in week after week, couldn't appreciate your support more. But I also want to say a special hello to our newcomers that are watching tonight live, and of course all the ones that watch this later on, days, weeks, months later. These shows are always archived, so you can watch them whenever you want. But if you want to stay in touch with everything that appears on this show, future guests, future topics, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and then you'll get future updates and maybe even some hints of a spin-off show that might be in its works. So would love to have you subscribe, and make sure this tonight's episode, if you really like the show and the guest and the topic, make sure you hit that like button, because every little bit counts. And if you have any questions for our guest tonight, make sure you drop a line, and I'll make sure that he gets them. Hope you've all had a great week so far. As everybody knows, I'm in Texas, so we're kind of suffering down here right now. We had triple-digit weather last week. We've got triple-digit weather this week. And they've already said triple-digit next week, no rain in sight. So kind of, if wherever you're living right now, if you're getting any rain, just kind of send it down here to Texas. We really do need it pretty bad. So the grass is not green anymore down here. It's brown. So yeah, it's like the Mojave out here almost. So anyway. So just pray for rain, please. Again, hope you've all had a great week. Got a great guest and a great topic tonight. We're going to be talking about things that are historic. And even though it may be some years have passed, they are as much popular now as they were then. Now, some things have come and gone. Like, for example, now these were popular in the 1980s and 1990s. Yes, this is an old VHS tape. You can even see it came from Radio Shack, which is long gone. Now, VCR tapes had their day back in the 1980s and the 1990s, but you mentioned that now and you are ancient history. But there's one thing that I'm going to be talking about tonight that is not ancient and is not out of style. In fact, if you were anybody in the 90s, if you partied and you clubbed and you jammed the radio, you probably heard this song. Now, how can you be in a bad mood and be listening to that song? If you had any bad mood, at least me back in the day, anything I was feeling the blues, just put that song on anywhere, whether it's a private party, a club, or even a restaurant, guarantee you the blues would go away. So the group's name was Tag Team, and in my opinion, they rival Run DMC. They rival the Beastie Boys, Outkast. I mean, and their music, as you just heard, is timeless. There are people now who were not even born in 1993 when that song was released, who are now partying to that song. Whoop, there it is. So enough about me. Let me bring half of the Tag Team group on this show. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to DC Glen of Tag Team. DC Glen, welcome to the Van Buren Variety Show.
It is good to be here. How are you guys doing this evening?
Well, like I said in my monologue, we are very hot down here. Do you have any rain that you can kind of blow over here or give us over here?
Hey, I'm all over the country. It's hot everywhere.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's hot everywhere. So you're not alone, my friend. You are not alone.
So misery loves company then, I guess, right?
Man, part of life. Can't stand the heat. You know what they say.
Yeah, that's right.
Stay in the air conditioning.
That's exactly why everything's going really, really hard right now in this room. So it's cold as it'll be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me talk about the group first, Tag Team, which was, you were number one for so many weeks, maybe months, especially in 1993 when that song was released. So tell us the origins of Tag Team. How did that become a reality?
Well, back in the day, I had switched high schools from a Catholic school called Matchbuff to private school called Manual, and in my 7th grade year, and I sat next to a dude named Steve Gibson, and because my last name is Glen, that's how I met. And Steve had a band, and they used to play in the quad at lunchtime sometimes. And I was like, I've
Oh,
got to
wow.
be in that band.
Uh-huh.
And then I worked in the truancy office, giving out passes. And down the hall, Dr. Joyce Davis was the leader of the choir called Bolt Vibrations, Manual High School
Oh, okay.
in Denver, Colorado. And I was like, I got to get in that choir. And, you know, back then was my 11th grade year. It was the first dance I went to that year.
Sure.
I saw, I witnessed 2 turntables and a Radio Shack mixer.
Radio Shack, there it is.
Yeah. And I knew I had to be a DJ, and I became masterful at all 3. And I joined Steve's band and I joined the choir, and I became a DJ. And everybody looked at me, and parents were kind of upset because they're like, what kind of career is that? And I just never listened to anybody. And I honed my skills, graduated from high school, went to Sac State University in California, started DJing all the frat parties, started lyrics. We had a band called The Business, but as you know, when young kids are together and they do stuff, they grow apart. And me and kind of stayed together. And, it was 3 of us at first, tag team. And one of our members went to the military. And then it was just me and Steve. And I'll never forget it. I was in it was my sophomore year. My friend Johnny Z, who classic 90s producer too, he created the song Back to the Hotel by In Too Deep. He knew nothing about rap and DJing, and I taught him everything he knew. And he had a 4-track recorder. And for those who don't know what a 4-track recorder is, basically GarageBand in a little box that you use as a cassette for tape.
Yep, that's it.
And he couldn't figure it out. I was like, I'll figure it out. And then another one of my friends had a TR-808, which is a drum machine. And he let me make some beats, and I made about 10 beats and laid them on the tape, and then just created songs around them. Sent them to Steve, who was in Denver, and he couldn't believe it. He thought I was in a devil worship because I was using and scratching and using pots and pans and flutes and everything. But what he realized is that this dude made songs, because we used to have to go to the studio to make songs, right? But I can make songs in the comfort of my own living room now. And one thing led to another, and Steve got a 4-track, and we started just making songs like crazy. And then we just got really good at songwriting and making songs. And I graduated from college, and I went to Atlanta because Steve was down there going to the Art Institute.
Okay.
I said, I'm coming down there. And I just fell into, it was just instant. I got a job DJing in Atlanta, a club called Magic City. And we just started grinding and hustling and making music. But, we were in a different region. And we grew up hip hop.
Sure.
And my education to hip hop was buying records from all over the country. I bought them from DC. I bought them from San Francisco. I bought them from kind of every region.
Oh, wow.
And they were ordered to me every Friday. So I had the newest in New York. I had the newest from the West Coast. I had everything.
Oh, variety.
I was influenced by all of that. And when I got down south, I was introduced to a form of music called bass, which is basically, to me, bass music was a form of up-tempo electronic music, like the beginning of hip hop, Planet Rock.
Yes.
All those. Nobody can say Planet Rock was not hip hop, because that was the beginning of hip hop. And as time goes on down south, I realized that we weren't going to get out of the Southeast as artists if we didn't do something up tempo. And our first attempt was Whoomp, There It Is. And everybody thinks Whoomp, There It Is was this big project, Manhattan project, where we were wearing lab coats and got whiteboards up and theorems and geometry and all that, when it's just a song about 2 guys chasing women on a Friday night, which is of every country song, rock and roll song, blues song.
It covers everything. Yeah.
Across the board, right? And it hit. And I'll never forget, 92, we went and recorded it. And that night I went to work at Magic City. And Magic City is an adult entertainment club, aka strip club.
Okay.
Put it in. And to this day, that is the biggest response on any record I've ever had in my life. And I've been DJing for 30 years. because like 15 people came to DJ, was like, what the hell is that? And I'll just, my hubris as a young man, I'm like, well, every song I make is going to be the bomb from here on out. So I kind of shelved Whoomp There It Is. But later that year, I played it again. The same response happened. And I'm like, whoa, I kind of have something here. And back then, there were only two big, hubs for record companies, which was New York and LA.
It's true. East Coast, West Coast.
Yeah, East Coast, West Coast. And then you had their hubs that would service, the record pools and the radio stations and the DJs and the clubs. So I knew all the reps.
Mm-hmm.
A rep named Alan Cole from Columbia Records ran to the DJ. We like, dude, what is that? And I was like, there it is. What's my new song? He was like, give me that. I'm going to New York. I want them to hear this. Took it to New York. Now I'm getting calls to Columbia Records. And I was like, wow. Every label. So I go to A&M. I go to Epic. I go to Warner Brothers. I go to everybody. And everybody's like, this is great, but we don't know what to do with it. So they wanted to do the traditional way and develop us and all that. I was like, we ain't got time for that. And they didn't know what to do with it. So I felt like I was getting the runaround. I almost gave up. But this record rep, Lisa McCall, said, you need to call Al Bell.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who don't know Al Bell, at the beginning of soul music, there were 3 record companies: Philly International, Motown, Berry Gordy, and with Al Bell. And the year before Whoomp came out, Al Bell had put out a record, Daisy Dukes by Deuce. And it went gold. And I was like, well, I can live with gold. Mm-hmm. And I called him. He called me back about 2 weeks later. And I'm like, look, man, we got a hit record. I've tested it in every club that I'm DJing at, and it's overwhelming. And you need to sign us. And he was like, okay. And I was like, whoa. You hadn't even heard the record.
Yeah.
And he said words I'll never forget. He said, brother, I don't have to hear the record. I hear it in your spirit. Let's agree to agree.
Wow.
Get this thing moving. And I gave my 2 weeks at Magic City, signed a messed up record contract, and in a month and a half, Tag Team was platinum, and the rest is history.
Oh, wow. Love success stories like that, And, that came on the air, and that was, that played on every station. That was not on the rap channel. It was the rap channel, but it was mainstream, pop music channels.
Crazy because that was the beginning transition. I mean, maybe 4 or 5 years earlier, I say maybe 6 years earlier, it was a transition from just Casey Kasem to Friday night videos, right?
Yes.
And MTV, and that transition went to the video music jukebox where you could pay to request your video.
Yes.
And I'll never forget, Ed Lover's a real good friend of mine, real dear friend of mine, and he had heard Whoomp There It Is like my last 2 weeks at Magic City, right? And he was like, dog, what is that? And I was like, that's my new record. He's like, give me that. I'm gonna go play that. And I was like, here you go. And I only had cassettes, right? He's like, man, I need vinyl, dog. And I was like, okay, I'll get you vinyl. And after I left Magic City, I got some vinyl pressed up real quick. And he came back and got it. And for those who don't know who Ed Lover is, there was a show on MTV called Yo MTV Raps.
I was going to say that, yes.
Ed Lover and Dr. Dre. And Ed Lover took Whoomp There It Is back to New York and played the instrumental for the entire show. And that set it off. And then 2 weeks later,
wow,
the Bulls win their 3rd championship under Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there on my couch looking at TBS. And for those who don't know, TBS and what is it in Chicago? WGC?
WGN.
WGN and TBS were the only 2 cable channels. That's why everybody loves the Braves and the Cubs.
Mm-hmm.
They were national, right? They were nationally syndicated. And I'm looking at Grant Park, 500,000 people chanting Whoomp There It Is because the Bulls are on the stage chanting Whoomp There It Is. And then we were gone. And we've never looked back. And there is just a testament to just never quitting and just grinding it out. And you got to believe in yourself, and you just got to keep trying. And that's what we did, and we were successful. And then, a whole nother set of problems comes. But then, those are good problems because it depends what you do with those problems. If you look at them as problems, then and you don't do anything about them, then they remain problems, and they just keep you stuck. But if those problems and figure out solutions, then those are lessons that will last you a lifetime.
Absolutely. How did you and your partner in tag team handle it? I mean, you went from, you recorded this song, and now everybody in the country and internationally knows your song. So how did you handle all this sudden publicity?
It never fazed me because I've been a DJ all my life. So I DJ'd at the biggest clubs in Atlanta, right? I knew all the stars, I knew all the rappers, I knew, I got to Atlanta when Babyface and L.A. Reid and Bobby Brown and Deion Sanders, his rookie years when I got to Atlanta.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? He used to hang out my DJ. Everybody used to hang out in the DJ booth with me because Magic City was the #1 club in the city. So everybody knew who I was. I knew who everybody was. And I watched people rise and I watched people fall. And I watched people, rise and treat people like crap. And then I'd watch them fall. And the very people they treated like crap reveled in their demise. And I gained a very valuable lesson from that. I said, I will never be that way. Because I used to see what it would do to people, right? You don't have to do that. And I've always been DC, always, so for me, it never was about stardom. I despise stardom. I just want to be me. So if nobody knows who I am, I'm fine with that. I don't need the attention because I'll do my work in the background. And when I need to turn it on, I can turn it on. When I turn it off, I turn it off. And to me, that's the blessing. And that is the reason why we are still here, because we were never, ever really, the song has always been bigger than us.
Oh, sure.
Right?
It's
and
huge.
That's cool. Right. And it has always been bigger than us until Geico, but not really, because we did a song called Whoomp, There It Went with Disney in '94. And that, between Disney, Jock Jams, Gold Noodle, and Kids Bop, all those were children's records. For the last 30 years, those have been the biggest children's records that there are. So every preschooler in kindergarten has been acclimated to Whoomp, There It Is their whole lives. So when a father and a son are sitting there watching the Geico commercial, and the son is like, "What you know about that?" And the father's going, "What do you know about that?"
Yeah, exactly.
That is why that commercial was universal, because everybody knew that song. And that was the first time everybody really, who didn't know from back in the 90s, got to put a face with the song.
Absolutely.
And I wouldn't have changed it for anything, because even though they got to put a face with the song, it happened during the pandemic. So I still get to live my life because we all had masks on.
Sure.
Right. So if I want people to know, I'll let them know. If I don't, I get to live my life and nobody knows.
Exactly.
I could be on a plane and nobody on that plane knows who I am. But the minute somebody finds out, the whole plane knows. It's a different story.
Absolutely.
I was on a plane with Low Cash, right?
Really?
I'm in first class with Low Cash, and I'm sitting right next to him, and all the flight attendants are just goo goo gaga.
Oh, sure. I bet they were.
They're just like, oh my God, and they're cool, and they're just chilling. And once we get ready to take off, I was like, "You guys are musicians?" It's like, "Yeah." It's like, "What's the name of your band?" It's like, Low Cash. I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." I was like, "Hey man, it's as a fellow musician, it is great to meet you guys. My name is DC Glen. I made the song Whoomp, There It Is. I'm with the group Tag Team." They were like, "Oh man, cool. Okay, wait, what? Wait a minute, Tag Team. Whoop, There It Is."
You got to think about it.
They were the ones that were starstruck, right?
Just a role reversal.
Role reversal, right? And they're the ones that start telling everybody on the plane, "You know who that is? It was crazy, because they told the waitresses, not the waitresses, but the flight attendants. And then the flight attendants, they were like, "Oh my God, what?" And they got off the plane first, because I always just I let them get off the plane first. And one of the guys had left his charger. So I picked up his charger. So let me go give it to him real quick. And the flight attendants stopped me and they made me take pictures with them. Right. So I get off the plane And I was like, hey, man, you forgot your charger. And he was like, man, we got to do a TikTok together. And
oh, wow.
we did a TikTok, and they just knew it was going to go viral. And we just walked through the airport just talking shop. And that's what happens with me and everybody, because I've got, you know, we all are part of the same tribe, and I've got experience, and I've got stories to tell them, and I've got wisdom for them. And it ends up being an educational event, because I end up sitting there telling them the things to look out for and the pitfalls and the things that can help them. And I developed friends. Like, they had a show in LA. They was like, man, please come to our show. We'll put you on stage.
Wow.
I'm like, nah, I gotta do something else, man, or I will come, because Cash is right now is one of the biggest bands in country, right? For younger country folks, right? So that would have fit. It just would have fit, you know what I mean? And it's just that is a testament to everything that I've done, because everything leads to something else, right? Because in 2011, you know, everybody thought Barack Obama was in our music video because of one frame that looked like him in this LA snow from the group Deuce.
Yes.
Before. But I get a call from the New York Times, and this lady's like, have you read the Gawker article? And I was like, no. It's like, everybody thinks you guys are Whoomp. There it is. And all of a sudden, everybody started calling me. We did press for like 2 weeks. ABC, NBC, Jeannie Mo, Stephen Colbert show. We did everything. And I was upset, because after 2 weeks of press, I didn't have any money in my pocket.
Oh.
And I said, and this is where I take trauma and turn it into something positive. And I said, that'll never happen again. And that's what started my digital marketing SEO career, because it was like, I have to figure this out. And I started SEO, learning how to build websites. I'd always kind of knew how to build websites, but
that's good.
A website is not enough. You have to know how to optimize your website to where Google can reach you.
Absolutely.
And places that you need to go. So, you know, it was one of the hardest things I ever had to do, but I did it. And, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, you type in tag team, it was all wrestling. You type in tag team today, is tag team.
Absolutely.
And that's because of my SEO prowess. And fast forward to 2020, in the middle of a pandemic, I get a call from my agent for acting, because I'm an actor and a voice artist as well. And she's like, DC, you booked the Geico commercial. And I was like, don't play with me, Lena. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Everybody freaking out. I haven't even auditioned for a Geico commercial. She's like, no, DC, it's for tag team. And I was like, oh. And I went and checked my phone, the tag team phone. There it was.
Wow.
And they didn't wait for me to call them back. They went to my IMDb, and because of SEO and the way I fill out all my platforms and I make myself found for the people who want my services, they called my agent. The synergy was incredible. I let my agent make the deal, and it is the biggest, most lucrative deal we have ever made.
That is great.
And that's how you turn trauma into treasure, right? And
good advice.
That's what I do. You know, I could have easily just not follow through, but I don't do that. And every opportunity I get, I try to turn it into 10. And now we're doing a Geico commercial, and we're doing a Geico commercial in a pandemic. So we really can't reap the benefits of it, because you do a Geico commercial, you're on tour forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tours, right? So I said, well, let me figure out what else I could do. I said, let me blow up acting, let me blow up voiceover, because, you know, the pandemic was one of the greatest. Pandemic was pretty much the greatest thing that ever happened to me. The other side is the other side, right? But there's a side that we all went through, which was, what the hell am I gonna do? Right?
Yeah.
Everybody had to ask themselves that question.
Where do we go from here?
Yeah. And the beauty of this is that we all had to stop at the same time, and we're all in the Serengeti together. This is a jungle now. What are you going to be, predator or prey? How are you going to survive? What are you going to do? Right? And, you know, for me, the building was burning, and I went and found the water and put it out. But a lot of people, the building was burning, and they're just like, I'm just go back to sleep, right?
Yeah.
And it really exposed what you were made of. And I said, well, I can't do shows, I can't do this, but I can do this. And I reinvented myself. I was already making money on voiceover, but I reinvented myself because I trained hard. 10 years, I've been 10 years in voiceover. I remember when I first started, I record everything that I do, every conference, everything that I do, I record and archive it. So
it's good. That's
I never
good.
thought I was going to go back and listen to the old voiceover classes that I took, but I did. I organized it. And that March of 2020, I started listening to my 10-year ago self-talk, and it was heartbreaking because it was like listening to a child, right? Because
Okay.
when I started voiceover, I used to kind of butt heads with my coaches because I thought I could just whoomp, there it is, my way through anything. Why wasn't this easy? And it was hard. And instead of me sucking it up and getting better at it, which I did do, I kind of bucked and was like, this is why y'all not the greatest coaches then. And because I never quit, and because I'm an actor now, and I went through that process, all the things that they were saying made sense. I didn't know the vocabulary, right? So if you go to China or if you go to Mexico and you don't know the vocabulary and you think, well, it's their fault, not mine.
Right.
Oh, you learn the vocabulary, then you can be creative and get what you need, right? And I redid the first voiceover I ever did. And when I listened to it, it was just so horrible. But then I was like, I did it again and listened to what they were trying to tell me. And it was just angelic because it was the first time in my life I had mastery over my voice. And I went through 42-hour lessons and did the same thing, just redid everything. And I started booking instantly because back then the voice was, we're all about COVID. You know, everything was about COVID.
Everything was about constantly.
Yep. You know I mean, we're here together. You know what I mean? Everything is going to be all right. Right. And I have that voice for that. I started booking. Then I got a call from my agent and she's like, can you get to Nebraska? I was like, yeah, I got a hazmat suit. I remember going to Nebraska, shoot my first movie because I didn't start acting until 2017.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
that was a coincidence because I was on the biggest agency in the Southeast for voiceover.
Wow.
And the owner came in and she was like, I love your face. Put him on camera. I was like, what's that mean? He's like, hey, man, that'll never happen. You got to start going to class. You got to get some headshots. And I fell in love with it because we all have that dream of standing on the stage, you know, accepting an Academy Award for acting, knowing that we'll never be an actor, right? But, you know, around that time of year, you kind of wish you were an actor. And, you know, I've always wanted to do it. I always knew I had it in me, but I never did it till 2017 and 2018. And, you know, I got my first movie in Nebraska. And I remember flying a plane. There was like 3 other people on the plane. Got there, did it, came back, did another movie, did a bunch more commercials, and then here comes Geico. And
That's
Geico's interesting
awesome.
because everybody thinks that it was just we just went and just did it. But it's like, no. When they told me when we signed a contract, I was like, okay, now it's time to go to work because
absolutely.
I'm an actor. So it's time to prepare. So that's where the spin and scoop comes from. That's where, you know, either, you know, I come up with like 5 or 6 different things. And the night before when we had our fitting, I went to the producer and the director. I said, I got some ideas. They were like, DC, you can do anything you want to do. I was like, well, I tried to do a spin and scoop, but just couldn't figure out how to make one. It's like, it'll be done tomorrow, DC. I was like, whoa. I was like, well, I like, you know, I know there's no sprinkles. I don't know why, but hey, we need a bunch of sprinkles because I want to do this and sprinkles. And then he's like, DC, we'll have a truckload of sprinkles for you. And every idea we implemented.
That's awesome.
They could have made 5 Geico commercials out of that day because we had so much energy because it became a tag team.
Sure.
Part. They had so much to work with. That's why every frame is valuable real estate because every frame has a story. And that's what made that commercial pop. And then just the timing. It's what everybody needed.
Absolutely.
Right? And, you know, now I'm like, we can't even do shows. I'm like, well, blow up your acting, try to find a publicist. So I tried to find a publicist. They were like, well, we're not working. They gave me every reason why they couldn't instead of one reason why they should. And this is for everybody. You can't let people put you in a state of stuck like that.
In a box, basically.
Yeah. So whenever that happens, I joined an organization. I said, I'm gonna be my own damn publicist. And I joined the Public Relations Society of America because organizations, societies, and associations are filled with professional individuals who are masterful and have been masterful at their profession for 10, 20, 30, 40 years and can't wait to help you. They have all the resources. They have all the things. They have all the ideas. They know everything about their industry inside and out, and what would have taken you so long to figure out how to do takes you 2 weeks by picking up the phone and starting calling people and asking questions. Right?
I may be interested in that myself. I may have to give them a call.
And that is what I did. So I joined the Public Relations Society of America 2 weeks, 2 days in. This is on a Wednesday, Super Bowl week. There's this big Zoom with cast with this CEO of this PR firm. And at the beginning of the Geico, it dropped Christmas. I held that press release. And I was like, I'm gonna raise my hand. I said, our press release is still relevant. And they're like, well, what's it about? And I was like, well, I'm kind of featured in a national Geico commercial called Scoop. There it is. I said it real slow, right? And I know the press releases are still relevant, but I wanted to, it's always good to get validation.
Absolutely.
And I'm looking at the chat. Wait a minute. What's he doing here? That's not him. That is him. And my mother loves that commercial. My grandfather loves that commercial. My grandfather blew up the entire call, and now the Zoom chat is about me. I've taken it.
Oh, wow.
You see what I'm saying? And they calmed it down. It's like, all right. Back to DC's question. Our press release is relevant. And went to the CEO. She said, yes. Because the whole last year, every story's been COVID. Every story's been political.
That's true. Yeah.
Come spinning scoops, throwing sprinkles, and DC will smile. Of course, that press release is going to work. You can go here for all the publicists, here for all the TV talk shows, here for all the journalists, here for all the podcasts. She gave me the entire breadth of her experience.
Wow.
In 10 minutes.
That's awesome.
It changed my life forever, and it is the reason that you and I are talking right now.
Well, I'm honored to be here. You know, we've talked. Oh, go ahead.
and I dropped that press release that day on a Wednesday. I get a call Thursday from the Dan Patrick Show. Super Bowl week. Now I'm on the Dan Patrick Show. Friday, Super Bowl week, talking about Tom Brady and strip clubs. National TV on the Dan Patrick Show. Then 2 weeks later on the Tamron Hall Show. And I have not looked back. So I can get any publicity I want anytime I want because I know how to do it. That's why
that's great.
3 or 4 podcasts a day have turned into me becoming a member of the National Speakers Association, which I just got back from their national conference. The last 3 days, I've been in a National Speakers Association conference. And the leaders of that organization have pulled me under their wing, and they are teaching me the game.
That's great.
I'm going to be successful because I have a group of people who have been doing it 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and they have given me everything they've got. Now it's up to me.
Yes, absolutely.
And my work ethic is bananas because I don't quit. I'm relentless. I don't take no for an answer. I play offense. And
sure.
I don't see things as a quid pro quo, right? Like, you don't plant a seed, sit down in front of that seed and be like, okay, seed, grow. I need you to grow, seed. Seed, why aren't you growing? Man, the seed don't work. I quit. Because people think, we all know people like that. They get a real estate course, they're going to be rich, and then nothing happens because seeds don't grow like that.
They sit on it, basically.
Yeah, see, you don't know that the seed could have been, you could have planted that seed this year in Texas in dry dirt.
Yeah.
That seed won't get nourished till the winter, right? You don't know when a seed is going to grow, so there can never be a quid pro quo. You can never expect anything of the seeds that you plant. You have to leave them alone. You don't know if it's a shrub, a tree, whatever. 29 years ago, I planted a seed called Whoomp. There it is, and now it is a sequoia. It is not going anywhere. Every year, Whoomp, there it is in something.
It's there.
Whether it's a commercial, whether it's a TV show, whether it's a movie, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's been in a Broadway play. This Sunday, as an actor, I was on my biggest TV show called P-Valley as a barber. And they found out that I was Whoomp, there it is, and they put Whoomp, there it is in the background music. So now I footage of me being in on one of the number one TV shows on Stars with Whoomp, there it is in the background. And now I get to use that in my reel for all the casting directors to see.
Absolutely. Oh, wow.
You take one opportunity and you turn it into 10.
Absolutely.
That's what I do. And that's why when I do any type of interview and podcast, people think we're going to talk about tour bus stories. We're talking about life. As long as you're breathing, there is nothing on this earth you can't do. Now, I'm not going to go and try out for the Dallas Cowboys being 55, right?
I'm right behind you, okay?
But I know that I'm willing to learn because I have learned how to learn. See, it's not enough just to learn. You have to learn how to learn. Because everybody's trying. When you get to your 50s, people think it's over, and I'm like, no. I said, you got something that nobody else has. Experience.
Get your second wind. And
it's like, learn how to learn. What do you mean by learn how to learn? I'm like, perfect example. If I get a long email, 2 lines into that email, I'm daydreaming. So I get to the end and don't know anything that email said. And I'm just like, man, I should have paid attention. But I take the AI, I put it in the AI. Now the email is reading to me. Right. And I can keep doing whatever else I'm doing. And I'm hearing it subliminally and I catch things. Now I fully know what that email said. Right now, traditionalists will say, well, you need to learn you need to read. I was like, yeah, but I'm doing 15 things at one time. So
multitasking.
I've learned how to learn something quicker. Right. Like I could take this podcast, dump it into the AI, transcribe it. And now I have a transcription of our whole conversation. And that's what I've been doing to develop my speaking career.
That's great.
Because the analogies that I've had get put into a mind map. And then I have talking points. And I have to, everybody at this conference was saying, well, what do you speak about? I was like, I'm ambidextrous. I speak about life, whatever you want me to speak about. And like, well, you got to have something. I was like, no, because I fashioned it too. And you'll be able to appreciate this. I fashioned it to me DJing in the club, right? As a DJ in the club, you have records and you have an audience. So same thing with speaking or anything. Steve will ask me, what we doing tonight? When we do a show, I was like, I don't know till I touch that stage and see the audience. And if the audience is lame and we struggle, then that show is a practice show. I'm sitting there practicing, giving everything I got because it's practice. There have been shows where we started out where they're looking at us like we're crazy, but the fact that we didn't fall for their negativity, which wasn't, it's not intentional. They just weren't moved, but we fought through it and we just kept being relentless. By the end, they appreciated that. Right. So for me, I tell everybody, it's like, look, if I DJ at the clubs every night, all the time, just throughout my career. But there was not one night where I played the records the same that night, every night. Every crowd dictates a different way of putting the party together.
Sure.
So if there's 1,000 people at a party, you're going to play records a different way than you're going to play if there's 200.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's all about keeping people on the dance floor, keeping their interest and keeping them connected. Same way with public speaking. My records are PowerPoint slides. And once I know what I'm dealing with, then I could put my PowerPoint slides in a way where I could talk about anything and I got them. Right. That's how that's an analogy of life. Right. You keep people.
Absolutely.
Interested. You know what I mean? I'd never do. If you listen to any of my podcasts, when I've got thousands of them, nothing is never the same. That's why I told you at the beginning, this is not about me. It's about you and your listeners. What do you guys want to know about? And I'm pretty sure that there are going to be some people listening to this that it might take just one thing to change a person's life.
To plant the seed, like you talked about.
And that's all I'm trying to do is talk to people about the things I wish someone had talked to me about when I was a young man. That's my mission. It's simple.
That's great.
And I just have a lot of fun doing it all. And then I just love the game. I'm relentless, right? I love new things. I'm a part of 20 different organizations, right? Because whenever I want to learn something, I go learn it. Like with speaking, I want to, I got to get in front of people. So I joined the Grant Writers Association of America, not so I can get grants. I wanted to understand how the grant game works. So once I started understanding how the grant game works, I found out that I can get a grant to talk to disadvantaged youth.
Oh, that's great.
Not only can I get my whole career paid for, but then I get to talk to people and I get to get footage to make my demo reels and do the things that I need to do. Right. Everything has a purpose. And, we go through life trying to figure it out. And a couple things I figured out is that, I've just acquired the ability to take any emotion, fear, envy, hate, anger, despair, loathing, jealousy. I sound like Yoda. And not react to it, because a man's worst enemy is his pride.
Yep.
Ego.
True.
And because I don't react to emotions, I put them in my pocket. I've learned to sequester my ego and kill my pride. Now it's tearing me up inside.
We're human. We're all human.
Be wrong, because being wrong is the path to being right, but it kills you inside. But that's okay, because that negative energy turns into positive energy because you did not react. And as time goes on, for me as an actor, if I'm got an audition, I get to use some of that stuff that I keep inside and release it in a positive way.
True.
I don't chase a character or try to be a caricature. The character becomes me, and now that performance is real.
Good advice. Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And I just use these principles across the board. And I have a good time doing it because I keep learning just practical ways to help people deal with the things in their life that they think are the most horrific, the thing that's holding them back. These are practical solutions. And the one thing everybody tells me is I'd never thought about it that way. And that's what I do. So
that's awesome.
I'm just relentless in joining like I said, join an organization. If there's something you want to do, you want to help with a laundromat, you want to do this, you want to do that, there's an organization for that, and you can learn from it very quick. And then if it's for you or not. And then the hard part starts, you putting in the work. Then you get to see what you're really made of.
Exactly. Make sure you keep the positivity, though.
Yeah, you keep the positivity, but then, it ain't for everybody.
Exactly. We've talked a lot about the Geico commercial. So let me bring that up for those of you that probably have been under a rock and not seen this. So for those of you who have seen it, like I have, you're going to enjoy it. So here's DC Glen and the tag team, where they took their 1993 song, Whoop, There It Is, and now it's called Scoop, There It Is. So let's play this for everybody, and hope you enjoyed it as much as I have. So I will bring this up and see what everybody thinks about it. Let's see. Here we go.
Gosh, did you know Geico could save you hundreds on car insurance and a whole lot more? So what are you waiting for? Hip-hop group tag team to help you plan dessert?
Fresh vanilla, rocky road, chocolate, peanut butter cookie dough. Scoop this, scoop this, scoop this, scoop this, scoop shakalaka, 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 shaka, scoop shakalaka, shakalaka, shakalaka.
Geico. Switch today and see all the ways you could save.
Oh, that was awesome. So let me ask you, how long did that commercial take? I mean, how long were you in the studio to finally get the final take on that?
We did it. It was one day.
Oh, sorry. Okay, now, sorry, it was still going. Okay. How long did that commercial take to shoot overall?
It was one day. It was
One
crazy
day.
because they had made the music already, and they had took our live performance in the commercial while we're shooting it and matched it to the song.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was it's actually as real as it could be. We were actually performing live when we did that commercial.
And we've heard many times, everybody's heard about the generation gap.
Mm-hmm.
But sir, when it comes to that song and your group, in my opinion, there is no generation gap, because the people that were partying to it in the 1990s, and you mentioned the Jock Jam, where they played that in that song, and now the new generation, which has now been introduced to it either through the Geico commercial or just classic radio. I mean, to me, there's no generation gap. It's just as much a fun song now as it was back in the 1990s.
And think about it. I remember sitting in the movie theater in the 2000s, and I'm looking at the screen, and I see Will Ferrell dancing on the table with Elf. That's when I knew I had a forever hit record, because that was a hit Christmas movie. That Christmas movie gets played every year ad nauseum. So anybody who has never heard Whoomp, There It Is, hears it in that Christmas movie.
Absolutely.
It's always something like that every year that does it. I mean, Walmart, a couple years ago, it was there for their Christmas campaign. And then you got, it's just, and then now I get to expand upon that by doing, like, I'm the voice of Amazon Prime for Prime Day, which started today. I got the voiceover for that. So my voice is nationwide on radio.
Wow.
Prime Day, the 12th and the 13th. Right now, that's not as big as Whoomp, but those are things that last, right?
Absolutely.
Every TV show I do, that's something that lasts. Every movie that I'm in, that's something that's going to last. So you're building these entities to solidify your future and your place in time.
Absolutely.
And all I have is my legacy. And that's why I just love building upon my legacy now, because the things I get to do, my life is great because I get to do a whole bunch of things a little bit. And I love it that way, because if I had to do one thing, it'd be a job. And I don't think I've ever had a job. I've never been scared of work. I've always worked, but everything I've done has always been fun for me.
Well, what they say, it's not really work. If you're having fun, it's really not work. I've always heard that.
And when I work, I'm always trying to I'm always learning. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go in and I'm going to learn everybody's job, and I'm going to make myself invaluable. And that's why I try to tell people, you're in a dead-end job, learn everybody else's job, learn the supervisor's job, learn their job, their HR's job, because someday somebody's not going to show up for work and the boss is going to be like, why ain't they here? Be like, I got it.
Cross training, yeah, for sure.
That's why they call it cross training. And the worst thing that can happen is if you do get laid off, the transition to your next thing in life is easier, because you've acquired a tool set to help you get there.
I'm going to bring up your website, sir. Tagteambackagain.com. So Tag Team, y'all still tour? Y'all still do special events then?
Oh yeah, we're on tour now. We're in the freestyle throwback jam tour. We're on the I Love the 90s tour. I mean, we're Disney hired us 4 times last year to do parades.
Oh, wow.
Parades. I had to have surgery a month ago because I threw out a disc in my back, throwing out the first pitch to the White Sox.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But I mean, it was worth it. The sheer magnitude of things that we get to do is astounding, because, I put in work. I make it easy for us to be found, right? So if there's an event, everybody can go to the website and they can get in touch with me. There's a phone number they can call. There's an email they can get to. I get emails all the time, and I get shows through emails. And then that's another one of those things where I joined the organization. People were saying, "Well, you only got one song. What have you done for me lately?" And I was like, you know what? Let me join the organization, because the booking agents are not acting they're acting funny. And I joined the International Entertainment Buyers Association. I went to the horse's mouth. I went to the buyer. I went to the person who puts on the tours.
Oh, wow.
And I joined that organization. And it's, go to their conference, 5,000 strong. Me and Chubby Checker, the only black dudes in there. And I never forget, I went there and had a big Whoomp, There It Is t-shirt on.
Chubby Checker. Oh,
Chubby
wow.
Checker, yeah. And I went in that, and everybody gravitated toward me, and I was like, so what are you doing? I was like, well, I'm just trying to get some shows and blah, blah, this. You know, it's like, well, what are you doing? Like, I'm tag team. You heard it? Yeah, I know what your song is. Like, well, we're a clean 90s nostalgia rap group.
Mm-hmm.
When they heard clean, I saw their ears perk up. Now I have the attentions of the buyers.
Mm-hmm.
So when the booking agents, you know, I basically cut out the middleman. Now I get to deal with the buyers. And now we're doing a whole bunch of shows a year. Right.
I think I'm kind of going back to where you said Chubby Checker. So we went from, can I just say, the twist to whoop, there it is.
and you know, like we got a show, got 2 shows coming up. I got Gun Barrel City, Texas.
Oh yeah, in my neighborhood.
Yeah, and we got there's a place in a little above Frisco that we're gonna do in the fall.
That's close to Dallas. Yes.
Yeah. So you know, I'm in Dallas all the time. So I mean, we do. You know, Texas and Florida are our biggest, you know, but I mean, it's the beauty of all this is that I get to experience America.
That's great.
People don't, right? Like I was just in Idaho, Boise, Idaho. I was just in Bismarck, Montana. I was just in, you know, I'm in places that nobody really goes to, right? But I love going to those places and I love driving around town. And it's like, when you see America, you realize we all have the same goals, man. We just want to be left alone, raise our families, make money, and live a good life. It's simple, right? But when you are stuck in your own stew, it's kind of hard to see that, right?
Sure. And
you see everybody else's others. And I'm telling you, man, we're in remote place. Like we get to go to Alaska and scoop ice cream for kids.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Right? For a bunch of money. But I'm going to relish that. And because I've always wanted to go to Alaska, and I'm going to go a week early and I'm going to tour Alaska and tour America because there's no greater place. I've been all over the world. I've seen poverty you can't imagine.
Oh, wow.
In South America and places like that. Right. So my contribution to the world is to just try to talk to people and just give them a little bit of hope and give them practical things that they can implement in their life.
Well, that'd be my question. You know, for someone who's either watching this live right now or watching this days, weeks, months from now, maybe they, you know, a young person, and maybe they are thinking about, you know what, I'd like a rap career, or not necessarily rap, but rock music, country music, jazz, whatever. What would be your suggestion, sir, for someone who's just starting out, wanting to get into the business? How would you help them, and what advice would you give?
So this is what I do, because people come to me all the time. DC, put me in the game. I'm like, I ain't got time for that. But and how I weed that out is I say, okay, I got a folder for you, and I got a book. And I want you to read it. And if you don't read or can't read, I got a video for you to look at.
Okay.
And get back with me after you look at it. And then I'll know if you're serious or not. And I can tell you 98% of the people never hit me back.
Because they don't read it, or just they get
because that's not the answer they want.
Oh. They want instant success.
They want the answer where I say, okay,
that don't happen.
Do this and you do that and you do this and you pay this amount of money. They want that answer. I'm like, nah. And every now and then, somebody, like I have a guy named Cornell. He's a Army veteran. He was in Afghanistan, suffers post-traumatic stress disorder. So he writes lyrics and he makes songs. And he did that to me. And I said, hey, man, here, look at this. You know, read this and come get back with me. It took him about a month. He's like, okay, man, I've read it, man. And we talked about it. And he's like, but I still don't kind of understand. Don't you got to? I was like, no. I said, I'm going to explain it to you. And I said, hey, man, I have full confidence now that you will never get taken advantage of in the music industry because I've given you the back end first. I have taught you about music publishing. That is all that matters. I said the money, the cars, the women, the accolades, the stardom, that's the front end.
Yeah.
But what happens when your star fades? When your star goes out? What do you have left?
Which does happen a lot.
All you have is your rights. If you don't own your rights, you have nothing. And then then you become an old bitter rapper. And he was like, oh, okay. Then I took him to the next phase. And then I started telling him about organizations and how, and then he started doing shows. And he was doing real good to the pandemic. And I just haven't talked to him since. I don't know how it worked out, but he was listening to me.
That's awesome.
I tell people, I give people the mistakes that we made. If we had known about music publishing, we would have saved us a lot of heartache, right? But you know, every artist goes through that because you're young and you don't see every artist is young and they just want to be stars.
Yeah, and instant stardom.
It is what it is. It is what it is. But if you're dealing with me, I'm going to teach you music publishing so you can go into a negotiation saying, well, what's my publishing look like? Because you know exactly what music publishing is. And the only reason people, there's people that own people's records that didn't do a thing, but talk them into getting their music publishing.
They signed the contract, basically.
They signed the contract. So it's like you just, I really reiterate that over and over again. Sometimes the most practical solution is the most unbelievable, uncosmetically, it's ugly. It's ugly. It's not a pretty thing. It's not a shiny object. It's dull.
Sure.
That one thing, you can have a mediocre record and live your life forever because you can license your music to commercials. You can license your music to movies and television shows.
Mm-hmm.
You can take a chorus of your music, make it a television jingle, make it the beginning of a television show, and get paid residuals forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like people don't even know that Kid and Play, or a kid from Kid and Play, he created the theme song for Bill Maher's Politically Real Time with Bill Maher.
I did not know that.
How long has that show been on? 20 years. He's been getting rules for that dun 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 dun.
Yeah. I kind of remember from the House Party movies.
But he probably didn't get nothing from the House Party movies because they were at the beginning of his career and they were just doing it. But because when you get older and you get wiser, you do something big and you get the rights to it, it lives forever. Now he gets a residual check every single week.
Wow. That's awesome.
You see what I'm saying?
Well, DC,
your perspective.
Well, DC Glen, it's been a learning experience. So glad that you are here, but not just talking about your music, but giving these words of advice. I mean, years ago, decades ago, I hate to say it, I was kind of a negative person. I'd give up a lot, but now I look back in retrospect, and I like to think, you know what? Hey, be a little more positive. Don't just, like I said, watch the seed grow. Kind of what you just said.
But you know what? Here's the beauty of life, right? That's what the pandemic taught me. As long as you breathe, because think about it, man. We have these things in life where we beat ourselves up for the things we've done. Like I give you a real quick example. I did a song with Disney teaching. I taught Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse how to rap. They taught me about voiceover and animation. 1994. I beat myself up for years because I was there because my mind wasn't ready yet.
Exactly.
1995. I'm sitting in the office of President of New Line Cinema. He's like, yeah, I might want to audition you for this new movie. Wesley Snipes and LL Cool J are fighting for the lead. It's a vampire movie called Blade. I was like, yeah. Talk to my agent. I wasn't ready.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Judy always tells me, like, sometimes in life we're just not ready.
Right.
But the pandemic is like, there are no mistakes. There are no missed opportunities. You can correct that crap.
Absolutely.
I'm an actor with 5 movies, 5 TV shows under my belt. I do voiceover all the time. It's never too late as long as you breathing. You can correct all that stuff. So, people probably say jack of all trades, master of none. Over time, those things that you quit, you probably became pretty masterful with.
Sure.
Because it took you time to develop them. So never quit.
That's good advice.
Something that you want to do, is never too late. Join an organization.
And of course, we don't want to forget this, ladies and gentlemen. If you are historically in a bad mood, or you're depressed, or whatever, you need to download this song, or if you've got it already, play it. Because I guarantee you, your bad mood is going to disappear in a very, very big way. And it's one of the most songs that was related. It was released in '93, but it is just as much popular now as it was back then. And it's definitely, DC Glen Tag Team has definitely made, a very positive spin with people's lives with that. And plus, your positive note tonight, I really appreciate that. And I want to put your website up again for my audience, www.tagteambackagain.com, and they certainly are. So definitely check that out. Hey, check a concert out. Do you have any touring information on the website?
Yeah, just type in tag team tour and everything will come up. See, that's what it does for you.
Okay.
Right? You see what I'm saying? Like, it's all relevant. It's all relevant, man. It's the ability to get in front of the people who want to see what you got to do or offer the services that you have.
Sure.
That's life.
Well, DC Glen, I appreciate you being on here. It's been a learning experience. I'm honored that you took time out of your schedule to be here, and I know my audience will appreciate it as well. And I wish you much more success in life, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And I would love to have you back on the show again, too, if you like.
Yeah. All right.
Have a great night. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for tonight's episode of Van Buren Variety. Just as a reminder, I'm on the show every Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. I have an individual guest talking about a individual subject. Might be a profession, it might be a hobby, it might be a how-to segment, might even have some musical guests coming up. So make sure you subscribe already to Van Buren Variety and you won't miss any of the future episodes. And make sure when you click on Van Buren Variety, click on the videos tab and you will see all the past 70 episodes that I've done. And make sure you comment. Make sure you're liking to that and even ask some questions to that guest if you do have any questions. So this is Bob Van Buren. I appreciate you being here tonight and I hope to see you next week. Good night, everybody.